So here we have Melanie, and she is the director of Battleground Skate House, which is in Battle Creek, Michigan. And if you guys have an opportunity to check that out while you're in Michigan, it would be a big blessing to you. So she's going to give us some practical application on how to witness when you're out in the parks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. It is awesome to be with you. I don't skate, but I keep saying that's because I don't want to get hurt, but I keep getting hurt just watching, so maybe I should skate. So I grew up, my parents were in ministry. I was always, we worked in downtown Dallas with drug addicts and orphans in Mexico. And then I got to my mid-20s, mid-30s, and started saying, Lord, okay, I've been sharing your truth with people my whole life, but I still can't walk up to a stranger and just share the gospel with them. So how do I do that? Where's the person that can teach me how to do that? And through a whole series of events that I won't go into, I was led to some crazy training that came out of the incredibly rapidly disciple-making movements in Asia. And those movements have been spreading all over the world. And in every place that people go, they say, this stuff won't work in our area. The people are different here. And the truth is, the gospel works wherever you preach it. And so wherever people are spreading the gospel and raising up disciples, there's multiplication happening. And I'm not satisfied anymore with addition. I don't want to see one person come and join our club. I want to see one person sent and multiplied. And so I am really practical. Judge said that if he doesn't practice kick flips, he starts getting worse really fast. And if you've never practiced one, then you must be really, really bad. So if you haven't practiced sharing your faith, you're probably bad at it. And so that's okay. You should be bad at it because you haven't practiced. So what I like to do is help people practice sharing their faith. And different tools work in different contexts. So the way I say I know a tool is working is, are my disciples using that tool with their disciples? Okay, then if it's multiplying, I know that's a good tool that's working. So I will just tell you that the tools I'm going to share with you today, I'm going to share one now and one in a little while after lunch. The tools that we're using, they're multiplying all over the world. I have friends who have them on surfboards. I have these tools drawn on their surfboards. I have friends who are drawing them in the dirt floors in huts in Peru. They are multiplying everywhere. I just got back from training church planters in Vietnam, and they're using the same exact tools that I'm going to teach you right now. So let me think if there's anything else I want to say. Yes, I know what I want to say. Okay, so you think about who would be really good at sharing the gospel. And we always say Billy Graham, and now there's a lot of people who don't know who Billy Graham is anymore, but most of you guys probably know who Billy Graham is. Most people think that's the sort of guy who can share the gospel. Okay, but if you go to the book of John, you'll find the very first person recorded by John sharing the gospel is the Samaritan woman. Okay, so here's the lady who has, is it 5 husbands? 5 husbands, is living with a guy who isn't her husband. She had 5. Yeah, now she's living with this guy. She's encountering Jesus. And she goes back to her village and she says this incredible gospel message. Come meet a man who told me everything I ever did. That was her gospel message. And the whole village turned and put their faith in Jesus. Okay? They came and listened first. They heard more. And when they heard him, they said, at first we came because of what the woman said. And now we've heard you and we believe you are the Messiah. Okay? So I want to teach you guys a little tool to start a conversation. There's more little tools like this, but a little tool to start a conversation like the Samaritan woman, because who I'm looking for in a skate park is a Samaritan woman. I'm looking for somebody who is in total brokenness, and God wants to change their life and make them an apostle, a prophet, a teacher, an evangelist, a shepherd, and raise them up for the kingdom. And I want to see them multiply. And so what I want to do is I want to model for them from the very first moment, very simple tools. I don't want to get up and do something that they never can do. or that they feel they never can do. I want to do something really easy that they can go and do an hour later with their friend. And so we're going to start with a tool that I call the 15-second testimony. So if you've never shared your testimony in 15 seconds, we're going to actually time each other so that you can see if you can get it done. My children can do it in like 2.7 seconds or something like that. You don't understand a word they said, but they shared it. It's really fun. Yes. So I'll first start by sharing my 15-second testimony. So there was a time in my life when I was fearful and anxious. And then I put my trust in Jesus and obeyed him. And he gave me joy and hope for the future. Do you have a story like that? So let me say it again. There was a time in my life when I was fearful and anxious. And then I put my trust in Jesus and obeyed him. And he gave me joy and hope for the future. Do you have a story like that? And that line, just 15 seconds or less, opens doors for conversation. And so I'm going to train you guys first. We're going to do it on the board, and then I'm going to have you guys practice doing it with each other. So we're going to get up. I figure if you come here and you hear me tell great stories, that might be entertaining or maybe inspiring. If you learn something from me, cool, whatever. But I actually want you to go out and do something. So that's why we're going to practice doing. So I'm going to go over here and do it. I don't know if I can hold the mic and do this at the same time. Okay, so there's a few parts to what I shared, my 15-second testimony. So the first part, oh yeah, good. The first part is easy. There was a time in my life. So practice saying that, because I don't know why, but a lot of people really have a hard time saying, there was a time in my life. So let's say it together. There was a time in my life. Very good. Okay, actually, it's not too hard, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
You're welcome.
Okay. I'm usually doing this on a board much bigger, so I'm trying to make it small. Okay, there was a time in my life. Then, if you noticed, I told about a time in my life where I was experiencing, for me, I said, I was fearful and anxious. You pick your 2 words. If today you can't think of 2 incredible words that just sum up your whole life, just pick any 2 words that describe something you were dealing with, either before you met Jesus or like me, I gave my life to Jesus when I was 3. And so before I met Jesus, I said no to my parents, or I don't know what. So I actually picked a time in my life when I was a believer, but I was dealing with sin in my life. And I was dealing with something that was overwhelming. And so that's why I put in fearful and anxious. Then I picked 2 words to describe my response to Jesus. I trusted Jesus and I obeyed him. Or you could put, I made him the king of my life. I made him the boss of my life. Whatever you want to do, your 2 words for what you want to describe before your encounter with Jesus. And then I used 2 words to describe what Jesus did in my life. He gave me joy and hope for the future. Okay? So what I want you to do right now is turn to somebody else at your table, and I want you to say, there was a time in my life when I was blank and blank. Just pick your 2 words.
There was a time in my life when I was lost and confused.
There was a time in my life where I was doubting my faith.
Okay, did everybody find 2 words? Everybody get to share? Okay, now I want you to say, there was a time in my life when I was fearful and anxious, but then 2 more words. I put my trust in Jesus and decided to obey him. If you can't think of 2, use those 2. I put my trust in Jesus, I decided to obey him. Okay, so start from the beginning, tell a different person than you told before.
There was a time in my life when I was self-conscious.
there was a time in my life I was fearful and anxious, but then I trusted Jesus and I obeyed him. And he, what? What did he do in your life? 2 words. He gave me joy and hope for the future. So practice now. This part, this part, this part, this part. New person.
There's a time in my life.
You may have to get up from your table and move somewhere to find a new person.
Gave me a purpose to live.
There was a time in my life when I was confused and I couldn't find everything. I did obey him. He gave me the Holy Ghost. The new life. He gave me power and joy.
Okay. There's a question that you end with. The point of this tool is to hear from the other person. It's to testify, yes, but it's also to open up a conversation. So we end with a question. Do you have a story like this? That. So try that. Do you have a story like that? Okay, so here's what I want you to do now. Get up from your chairs, go find 2 other people, and share your whole 15-second testimony. You can time them if you've got your watch right there.
Down. I'm coming for you.
Oh,
It's
man.
your turn.
Praise him. Hi. Well, there was a time in my life when I was lost and confused, and I trusted Jesus and gave my heart unto Him.
Okay, let me know
The
if you've
desires
got
of
2
my heart.
reps in.
And He
You have
encouraged
2?
me. He gave me hope for the future and a path. Do you have a story like that?
Good job. So there's a time in my life where I was very anxious and very depressed. Wasn't going very well with life, and I gave God full control. I gave him the stronghold over my life, and he gave me a purpose to live and just strength to live. Do you have a story like that?
Amen.
Amen.
Praise Him.
Okay. Have you got 2? If you don't, talk fast.
See, do you have one? Okay. How you doing?
Back the iCloud soon.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I probably have like 5 hours on this thing.
Charging it?
Yeah.
Charging it between?
Yes, sir.
Let's say somebody just showed up at the conference, they missed this session, okay? And they said, what was the session about? Who in here could tell them how to tell their testimony in 15 seconds? There's at least a few. Okay, that's why we because we want you to be able to train somebody else as soon as you leave this place how to use this tool. And so I say, my dad, very charismatic, been a pastor for years, done all sorts of ministry all over the place. And when he learned this tool, he said, this is the first time in my life that I can teach somebody who isn't charismatic, who isn't a real people person, who can talk about anything with anybody. I can teach them how to go up and have a gospel conversation with a stranger. So he learned this tool. He's a biker chaplain, and he went to a biker rally, and a lady walks up, and he thought, Lord, I'm just going to try the tool. He's not that sort of guy. He doesn't like structure and rules and tools and everything like that. And he says this. He never even got to the next tool I'll teach you in the next session is how to share the gospel in 2 minutes. He never even got to the gospel. He just said to the lady, do you have a story like that? She said, no, I'd like to. Can I give my life to Jesus?
Amen. Praise Jesus. Amen.
Yeah. So this tool is a powerful tool. It's simple and powerful. So I'm going to end there so that Kyle gets a chance to get in before lunchtime. But thanks for letting me share that with you.